What's up, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters? I'm back with another live stream, and I'm excited today. It's a good day. Hope all is well with you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're live streaming on the onegreatworknetwork.com. My name is Will Keller. We're also streaming on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch, so check us out on all the channels. Got a special presentation today. Let's get right into it. Conscious Parenting for Conscious Beings, Part 2. This is going to be a continuation from my Part 1 segment that I did at the Seed for Growth conference in May. And we're going to dive in and touch on some more topics and get a little bit deeper. But definitely check out Part 1 to gain that message, because it's crucial to understand that message before going into Part 2. But nevertheless, I got something for everyone. So I'm going to make everybody smile and piss everybody off at the same time. It's going to be great. Okay. So before we begin, the topic is sensitive for most people due to the parental aspects we will be discussing here today. Please acknowledge your emotions, but do not let them control and cloud your ability to hear this message. Use this information and insight as a resource to gain a deeper understanding of these topics. Outside the comfort zone is where the lessons await. And the catchphrase that I like a lot, my brothers over at the Wizard Factory kind of coined this, or that's the first time I've heard that, and it makes a lot of sense, and it's awareness creates choice. And what this means is that it's all about consciousness. Consciousness is pattern recognition. If you're going to learn anything, self-improvement, gain at a skill, you need to take in information, and consciousness is awareness. So as you take in more information, your awareness will increase, and that will create more choice. So that's my goal when I do these presentations. I'm offering insight and information that I've gathered, I've come to understand, and hopefully, you can resonate with that and take this information inside you and understand this and apply it to yourself. This is a stepping stone. So I'm passing the torch, the light of knowledge, and hopefully it kind of shows a way and opens up doors for you, and you could follow down those paths. So we're going to get into teachability. This is a perfect way to kind of begin a presentation. And also, this is great to understand, to know for yourself, and to teach your children as well. This is the Teachability Index. And a low teachability will be, you have the bell curve, so it's on either side. It's going to be arrogance and naivete on the far right. So these are opposites, but this is what constructs a low teachability, meaning you're arrogant, you won't take in any new information, or you're extremely naive and gullible, and you just accept everything. And it's interesting, because this is where if you look at society and where it's at, the majority of people are on these outer spectrums, right? And I would say, more gullible and more naive. But moving your way in, let's start from naive. You have gullible, trusting, and then student. And then on the other side, you have arrogant, cynical, skeptical, teacher. So a high teachability is right there in the middle with that teacher-student dynamic, meaning you're slightly skeptical and slightly trusting. So you can take in information and just hold it for what it is, information, and hopefully that will spark you to look into it further, right? applying the trivia method of truth discovery, which we talked about in part 1. And that's something that people should dive extremely deep into and understand that. That is the process of critical thinking, and it applies to exactly what we're talking about here. This will help you gain a high teachability index. And the teacher-student dynamic, for me, this is a lifelong process. In modern society, people are thrown into modern education, and then it seems like at a certain time period after your 12 years of indoctrination, right, or you might do a little college, the learning ceases. It stops there. But this is an ongoing process. Learning is extremely important, and you need to be in that right state of mind where the information that you have gathered and you've come to understand, you're able to communicate that and teach that to people. But yet, you're not pitching your tent halfway up the mountain like, I've reached a level of understanding and that's it. No, you keep going, and you gain a deeper understanding of information, an eclectic array of information. So this is really important. It's good to understand it, apply it to yourself, and teach it to your children, right? Slightly skeptical, slightly trusting, high teachability. And this is what makes for, being truly open-minded is the teacher-student dynamic, right? But with a willingness to change, meaning you could take that information and apply it to yourself and change your behavior. So we're going to do a little recap on the part 1, Conscious Parenting for Conscious Beings at the Seed for Growth Conference. It was pretty good. I just packed in a lot of information in that 1 hour, and we're going to do the same today. But like I said, these are just sparks of information and insight for you to follow through on. And the whole message of this was that as parents, we have a duty to be the example to our children, to facilitate their experience, and to give them an understanding, show them an understanding of what it means to be a good person, a truly moral human being. We talked about morality and how it's subjective, and natural law, the immutable, binding, universal conditions that govern the behavior, the consequences of behavior for human beings, right? This is the true law. And natural law it's metaphysical, energetic, and it's also physical, right? The physical is just the manifested reality from the cause, which is the energetic, the metaphysical. Metaphysics means beyond physics, beyond physical. So natural law is a huge topic, and I'm working on a real deep presentation to dive into that. But so this is a parent's obligation. You brought this child into the world, even though the child, their soul, is part of the source, the great all, and they're on their own journey. So there's boundaries there, and your responsibility, meaning the ability to respond to your child, is extremely important. And morality, it's all about morality. It's all about knowing what right and wrong is, and how the natural world operates. So check that out. It's got some good information in it. And here's kind of a catchphrase that my partner John at Natural Freedom League, this is what we kind of go by, right? Simplify the profound. And the quote is, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. As facilitators, we are guiding and teaching our children through their own unique process of self-discovery. The knowledge of self and the natural world must first be understood and applied by parents before we can teach our children at a level of simplicity, meet them at their level Speak plainly and truthfully. So, to sum this up, to simplify the profound, is that you have to be the change. You have to be the example. You can't talk the talk, right, without walking it. It's such a corny phrase, but it's true though, right? If we are trying to set an example of freedom and natural rights, well, aligning our behavior and promoting that within our own house is where it's at. That's what we have to do. And for the record, this presentation, I'm going to go back and forth from teenagers and young children. It's kind of for everyone. This can apply to all age groups. So meet them at their level. It doesn't matter if your child, your grown child, is 20, 18, 17, 16, whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't matter. You meet them at their level, meaning that you can explain it and you can show them in a way that they can comprehend it, depending on what level of their cognitive ability they are. And I'm not saying baby talk them, dumb it down. I'm not saying that at all. Actually, quite the opposite. I think young children are resilient and they understand many concepts, some better than parents do, because parents already have that built-in programming and conditioning. So talk to your children like you would a best friend. Talk to them like they're an adult. Be real with them. Be truthful. Never lie to them, but meet them at their level. Don't try to bring them up to your level, which is a common thing that a lot of people do, and they don't recognize that they're doing that. Entrusted to one's care. The parent is a facilitator for a child's own journey of self-discovery. By becoming a guiding force for the learning process of raising the child's consciousness by way of truth, love, care, support, presence, respect, and by example. We are giving our child the tools to become who they want to be in life by teaching them the foundational operating principles of the natural world and to discover their own being. Parents can lead by example on what it means to be a moral human and to exercise their own conscience so they can achieve their true will under right moral action. This is kind of what I was touching on a minute ago. We're leading by example. We're showing them how their own psychology works, right? How their mind works, their emotions, their emotional compass, the physical body. And these are all topics that we must take into ourselves first and apply to a certain level to be that example. And to ultimately know the difference between right and wrong, to exercise their conscience, conscience, to know together, right? Common sense, know the definitive difference between right behavior and wrong behavior. And so that they can have that foundation so they can be who they want to be. So they can go after their passions and truly fulfill what they want to do out of life, their life path, their life purpose. So here's the problem. Parental programming. The social engineers are controlling the population through the family dynamic via psychological transference. Parents transfer their conditioning and programming from their childhood to their children, thus the cycle continues. Parents must face their own belief systems and understand that just because they were raised a certain way, it might not be correct, moral, or a natural method. Stop projecting what you believe or what society wants your child to become. It says end generational mind control. And the meme, that's not my daughter, but it kind of looks like my daughter. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults. That's powerful. Psychological transference. This is a Carl Jung. He coined this phrase, and I'll give you an example, right? So what's going on right now with the whole COVID pandemic? Parents are instilling fear into their children. They're transferring their own fear and ignorance over to their children. And this it's been happening for generations. This is a tactic that the social engineers, they implement, hundreds of years ago. Because these social engineers understand how the human mind works. They understand psychology. At a level that it's kind of hard for us to imagine. So it's train the parents and the parents train the kids. And this has been going on for generations and generations. That's why I said end generational mind control. If you want to see what the future is going to look like, just look out in society at the younger generations, right? In some states, they've, lifted the mask mandates. But you notice young kids are still wearing them. A lot of people are still wearing them, but younger kids are wearing them because it's a part of them. It's a part of culture. It's cool now. It's attached with all these false virtues. That's psychological transference. And they will teach their kids. They'll pass all the conditioning and the behavior all the way down there. So the goal is to do the shadow work. And when you're a parent and you have kids, you got an extra plate of shadow work to take in, right? Because now you have a young mind. If you care, which is, it's what it comes down to. Do you care? Do you care to look in the deepest, darkest recess of your own mind and face those fears to better yourself, to become a better person for you and for your child? And this is what is going on. Children, very young children, they're a clean slate. They're a sponge. They're in those formative years, the formatting years, right? So their operating system, right? The mental realm is being developed and programmed just like a computer, the formative years. So psychological transference is just dishing psychological, emotional, spiritual baggage, boom, physical, right onto the child. And the child's got to deal with that as well, if they do, or pass it on to the next generation. So, yes, it's easier to build strong children. And here's the thing, I don't want to discourage everyone. This is not about, putting blame. This is about shining light on darkness that one must face. Shadow work is never over. This is a lifelong thing. We're in the physical realm. This is a schoolyard. We're all students, right? The ultimate schoolyard. This is where we're here to develop our soul, to evolve in consciousness. So we're constantly, and there is no perfection in this realm, right? We need, this is what we're doing. We're bettering ourselves and evolving. So yeah, one must look at themselves. And fear is always based in ignorance. Ignorance being lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. If you don't have knowledge of something, it is unknown. And that can scare you. That creates fear. So we see what's going on with society, right? It's not about a virus, right? It's about control. But people are scared, so they do whatever they have to, whatever they have been told, because they are ignorant. They do not have the knowledge. They lack knowledge to what's really going on all fronts, right? Themselves, how they work. I mean, I can go on a complete rant on that, but anyways, so to illuminate fear, you need knowledge. You need to learn. You need to take in more knowledge. And this is going back to the beginning. Awareness creates choice. Freedom advocate. On part 1, my first presentation, part 1, I ended the presentation on freedom, the greatest gift that you can give your child, right? Freedom. Freedom is the greatest gift in existence. This is what we're here to do. Freedom is nature, is natural. Slavery is artificial. It's control. So we need to be our child's freedom advocate. Children come into this world brilliant, full of potential, imagination, curiosity, and freedom because they are part of nature. It is the parents that condition, modify, control, and suppress their mind, body, and spirit due to their ignorance, programming, conditioning, and incorrect thinking. Children never need to be forced to learn anything. Instead, they need a life rich with resources and the world at their fingertips. They require loving parents to facilitate their interests, to help them expand and grow. With this support and presence, they are able to discover their true purpose. And at the bottom it says, rights apply to children as well. So, the last line, rights apply to children as well. This is what I want to say about this right now. And I'm talking to people that understand natural rights and understand what true freedom is and understand that, rights are inherent in nature. They apply to all human beings, but yet many people don't think that. Unconsciously, they don't think that. They haven't even thought about it or looked at it, or completely willfully ignore it, that children have rights as well that need to be honored. We just think, most people think that, children are you're just there to take care of them until they're grown and then send them on their way. And then once they are an adult, when they're 18, they're an adult now, you're responsible, their rights kind of kick in. A lot of people probably haven't even thought about this. They might say, oh, well, yeah, of course. But I'm talking about the same rights as adults have, right? Any action that does not cause harm to another sentient being. So yes, I am talking about spanking, right? That's a violation of a child's rights. Now, what I want to say about spanking, this is like a cultural thing, right? Spanking was big back in the day. It's almost starting to fade out. People do timeouts and that kind of stuff, which I don't agree with as well. I think communication is the best way to actually, you're spanking a child, or do what I say, you just do it, don't talk back. That is a very ignorant standpoint where you cannot communicate a idea or what you're feeling. You're reacting instead of responding. And this is where it comes down to responsibility. Respond to your child's needs, the ability to respond. So discipline can be modeled, meaning you can be the example of discipline, meaning your health, your stretching, your yoga, your juicing, whatever, and you do it on a regimen and you're disciplined about it. You have willpower on that. And, children will pick that up. Remember, this is the whole theme, is being the example. It's the change needs to start with the parents, right? Before it can trickle down to the children. So children, they come into this world seeking freedom, right? And we close that off from them because of psychological transference, because it's just the way I was raised. It's just the way my mom and dad were raised. Their parents, my grandparents, great-great-grandparents, blah, blah, blah. It's a cultural thing. It's just how we were raised, right? And that's the problem. So children, it's a natural state of being to seek freedom. And as soon as you restrict that, now you're getting into control and slavery. When I say this term slavery, most people immediately assign it to their own mental definition, which is complete folly, right? That's a fallacy. Don't do that. That's why it's good to clarify definitions. But slavery, there is a spectrum of slavery. Regardless, it is the same thing. It's when you restrict someone's free will, right? It's making a claim upon them, a claim of ownership. So am I saying, just let your child do whatever they want? No, you're there to facilitate and guide. So yeah, my child's about to walk off the cliff. I'm not going to do anything because it's freedom. They have free will. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you impose your own belief systems on them and how you think that things should be done, right? If a child is into a certain topic and you don't want them to be into that, so you say, if you do that, I'm going to punish you. That does something to a child psychologically, right? As soon as you start to restrict freedom, the whole mentality of a human being changes. And children are conditioned they're conditioned with fear, meaning the fear of authority, right? This has been instilled and programmed into them. And this is what we need to get away from. We need to recognize that children have freedom, and this is their whole purpose in life. This is what everyone's purpose of life is to achieve freedom, right? And it starts with freedom of mind. So you don't own your children, right? Their thoughts are theirs. Their body is theirs. You're there to facilitate and guide, and protect as well, right? People just giving up their children to government institutions and putting poison into their body, that is not a part of freedom. That is a violation of natural rights towards your child, and it's the parents' ignorance and neglect that they're doing that because of their conditioning. So we're going to get into natural learning. So let's define the word. Learning is a noun, the cognitive process of acquiring skill or knowledge. Let's look up knowledge. I put know. I found this interesting. It's a verb. It comes from the Proto-Indo-European. It's know, G-N-O, perceive or understand as a fact or truth, opposed to belief. Yeah, opposed to belief. That's actually the definition of know. This is where gnosis comes from, right? This is knowledge. Children learn best when they are internally motivated. This is the key to learning and success in life. The learning process is an ebb and flow of information. Learning can be anywhere at any time. Explore with your child and encourage their pursuit of passions. If there's one thing that you can try to, one state of mind that you want to hopefully show your child, that is to fall in love with learning. Now, here's the thing. Children naturally are natural learners. This is a part of nature, right? They come in, they're curious, they want to learn things. but the things that they're passionate about and what they know about. Now, apply this to yourself, right? Always apply the statement at hand to yourself, and then do contemplation on that. When you're learning something, it feels amazing, right? Something you're passionate about. When you gain knowledge and you gain a deeper understanding about that, it feels great. Children, it's the same thing. When they're internally motivated, right? They'll just learn constantly and keep going. Everyone's like this. Now, the problem is that they're getting programmed to stay out of this, to get out of this state of mind. And I'm going to dive into that in a little bit. So it's important as the facilitator to let your child explore their interests and be there for them. Be there, help them gather resources and meet their needs for that. Magical things will happen. So the whole concept, this false axiom, right? This belief that children have to learn from government institutions, from schooling, right? It's the same belief that rights come from government. Well, education and learning comes from schooling, public schooling or government schooling. It's a belief system. It is completely illusory, and it's a false axiom. The meme says, self-educated people cannot be fooled by institutionalized propaganda. Ain't that the truth? Okay, we got artificial schooling. And I put natural learning, artificial schooling, because this is important, something I touched on part 1, the difference between natural versus artificial. This is a incredible category to understand deeply. This can be a part of your operating system, how to gain a correct worldview, how you perceive the world, right? This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to gain an accurate perception of what's really going on in the natural world. So natural meaning relating to or of God, non-man-made. And artificial meaning man-made. So learning is natural. It is a natural process. It is part of creation. Schooling, when I say schooling, I'm talking about government schooling. That is artificial. That is man-made. And it's the complete opposite. So school is a noun. Place of instruction. Spare time, leisure, rest, idleness, holding back, a keeping clear. And also, another word that goes with this, because this is what it really is, government schooling, it's indoctrination. Indoctrination is a noun, instruct, teaching someone to accept doctrines uncritically. To indoctrinate is a verb, imbuing with opinions or ideology. So we're looking at the difference between learning and education. True education. Education means to lead one out of, right? Out of what? Out of ignorance. And artificial schooling, government schooling. First, here's some good resources to check out. I don't have any slides on them, but John Taylor Gatto. Amazing, amazing books. This is a phenomenal teacher in New York in the 90s, and then went on to write some fantastic books to show what the schooling system truly is and some solutions. The schooling system, it comes from Prussia, Germany. And it was made by their government, right? Because they wanted to create better soldiers. They're soldiers when they're at war at the time, and they wanted their soldiers to rush onto the battlefield, and there's bullets flying everywhere, and these people turned and ran the other way. So the government decided, how can we make these people not do that? Okay, we're gonna start to train the young, and they created this system of schooling. It was adopted into America. I think it was 1819. This is the compulsory education system, and then it was funded by elite and bankers, right? And they used the same model. Instead of creating soldiers, they want to create workers, someone that can be dumbed down and that would be cogs in the machine for society. So do your own research, dive into it. It's all there for you to discover, and you'll understand. But just think about this, right? Just think about how artificial a school is. First of all, parents are giving up their children. They're sacrificing their children. That's what sacrifice means, to give up. So they're giving up their children to strangers for 7-8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 12 years. Right? So you take that time that you could have with them, but they all do that because that's how they were raised. That's what they think that makes a good parent. That's what they should do, right? And so they're given to strangers, and then the strangers, the teachers, right, are teaching government curriculum in a room with a few breaks and lunch. It's extremely artificial. Learning is anywhere at any time, okay? You can't enforce learning. As soon as you start to enforce learning, that's when the child starts to develop some sidesteps mentally, meaning if they're not internally motivated, then they'll just cheat on a test. They'll do whatever they have to do, right? And then you're getting into the authoritarian agenda of what the school is. It's about making obedient slaves. That's what it's about. It's a radical ideology to give our children over to strangers 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, 12 plus years, to shape their minds on what to think and when and how to act. Schooling is mind control and conditioning, and that's exactly what it is. Okay, you got to raise your hand to go to the bathroom, and so on and so on. I can do hours how fucked up the educational the schooling system is, but its purpose is there to mold and control the minds. This is what they want to do of the young people, because the young are going to be the adults for the new society. They're the generations to come. And it's all about the state of mind. Okay? So on the left, we have the natural. This is called the growth mindset. And here are some of the attributes. Failure is an opportunity to grow. I can learn to do anything I want. Challenges help me grow. My effort and attitude determine my abilities. Feedback is constructive. I am inspired by the success of others. I like to try new things. That is a natural state of mind, right? That's when you have a balanced brain, and you're ready, you're open to learn and evolve and grow. Now, remember, this information is for parents mainly. This is for parents to apply to themselves, to understand the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, and what government schooling is compared to natural learning. So by the parents changing themselves and improving on themselves, that will affect their children. And hey, when you have older kids, teenagers, you're still their parent. So communication and conversation is important. You still have to be the example, right? You can just do it in different ways. I'm presenting information, so I'm creating art and I'm putting that out to the public. So do something like that in your own way. Activate those attributes. So on the next mindset, this is the fixed mindset. I have it labeled artificial. It says failure is the limit of my abilities. I'm either good at it or I'm not. My abilities are unchanging. I can either do it or I can't. I don't like to be challenged. My potential is predetermined. When I'm frustrated, I give up. Feedback and criticism are personal. I stick to what I know. A lot of people are in this fixed mindset, meaning a lot of adults. This is an artificial mindset. We see that nowadays, people just accepting everything from this so-called, the belief in authority. They just accept it. Why? Because it's easy and it's lazy. And you don't have to have responsibility for yourselves when you just accept something from someone else and you do as you're told, right? But you're contributing to the control system. So these are great state of minds to contemplate on: growth mindset and a fixed mindset. My daughter loves to learn new things, and I try to be right there, motivating as much as possible. And the growth mindset, the why stage for, I think it's like 3, and then maybe another one at like 6 years old. The why stage, where they're always asking why this, what's that, why that. That is a golden opportunity to just dive into a growth mindset. And hey, I'm not saying you have to know everything. There's power in telling your child, baby, I don't know. Let's go look it up. Let's go find out. Let's do some research. Let's see what we can find. Okay, and here's another attribute. I'm having trouble seeing my analog. Okay, there we go. The lost art of retroduction, apophysis, the apothetic inquiry. This is a method of logical reasoning employed when given a limited set of possibilities in order to arrive at knowledge, by way of the exclusion of known negatives. So, describing what something is by explaining what it is not. This process of truth discovery is ancient and remains unseen from modern education. Apophysis, affirmation through negation. All right, that's a mouthful for a lot of people that don't know this. This comes from the Neoplatonic era, and this is a process of truth discovery. This is how we can build a relationship with the creator, with nature, natural law. This to understand what rights are. So this is a phenomenal category. And here's how I explained it to Violet, my daughter, right? I said all that to her. She came in and she was reading that. And I've already told her what it is, but I read this to her. I'm like, do you know what that is? She's like, what? She's like, what language are you speaking? So this is the apothetic method, right? Meaning that it's affirmation through negation. And here's the example. How do you find the needle in a haystack? You burn the haystack. That which remains is the needle. Okay, that's an analogy for you of what the process is, right? So that's simple. You burn the hay, and what's left is the metal needle. Bam. So there's the needle. That's how you found it. So let's apply this to natural rights, right? What is a right? Well, let's use the apothetic method. What is a wrong? Okay, a wrongdoing, and a wrongdoing is any action that has caused harm. So we can pretty much break it down to 7, right? I'm not going to go through the list, but there's unlimited rights one can take. Millions and millions and millions of rights, right actions that one can take, right? But now we use the apothetic method to truly understand and get a deeper understanding of what a natural right is, right? By looking at the negative. So, a little piece to chew on, and all right. Gardening for growth. Gardening, one of my favorite topics. Working on a big presentation about it coming up soon. Now, I use this. It might not be for everyone, but gardening is a big part of my life, and I found it to be a powerful category to develop for self-development. It's incredible. Gardening is great for children to discover themselves and the natural world. So you can experience life skills and values, right? So, I mean, this is real intrinsic value, gardening, growing your own food, right? That is a life skill that, I mean, it's barely around anymore. Like, yeah, there's farmers, but on looking at the aggregate, I mean, this is one of the most important skill sets to have, to learn how to grow your own food, right? In the modern day, everything is, mass produced and artificial, and so there's, not that many farmers, and the value of growing it. And I'm not talking about like a huge garden. You can literally, I posted a video where I had one of those kiddie pools you can get for like $5, and you could fill it with soil and you can make a garden there. And it can teach, this is discipline, right? It's like, hey, if you, to your daughter or son, your children, if you care about this, right, then you need to work on the principles of gardening. And so it can create discipline and also value as well, because when you grow tomatoes, then you're taking that, you're nourishing your body, you're actually eating that, and that's huge value. That is real intrinsic value. It teaches principles and morality. So gardening, there's mental gardening for the mind. I use it as an analogy, and then physical, right? The mind is like a garden, right? This is what I'm doing now. I'm planting seeds. I'm a farmer, y'all. I'm trying to plant seeds so you can water them and bear the fruit of knowledge and then apply it to your behavior. So what happens if you take in bad information? You're going to grow stuff in your garden that is going to eat up your garden. It's going to ruin your soil or whatever. You're going to get, bad bugs, etc. So it's a very, very good analogy on both spectrums that I'm going to dive in detail in another presentation. But, teaches principles. So on the physical realm for gardening, what are the principles of gardening? Soil, water, sun, and care. I add care because you have to attend the garden. I mean, you could just let it be, but it's going to do its own thing. You're going to get a taste of just, of nature, and how if you just left to its own devices, what will happen. So that's a lesson right there. I do that as well. In my garden, I let plants go all the way till they've decomposed so we can see the whole process, right? But you can also see the spiritual principles as well, right? The principles of natural law, the Hermetic principles, mentalism, right? You had the thought to create the garden. The thought always comes first. You can see the rhythm within the cycles of how the plants grow and the cycles of the season and how it affects your garden. Gender is in plants, so you can see the flowering and the seed process. And the list goes on and on. Cause and effect, a huge one, right? A huge one. It's what happens if you don't water enough. What will be the effect? So this is something that, first of all, kids love playing in dirt. My daughter loves the garden. And if your kid's interested in that, it's a great segue into these type of topics, and you can simplify the profound. Even morality can be taught in this. Why? Because let's say you have multiple kids. So little Johnny's garden is over there, and Becca's garden is over there, right? Johnny can't just go over and just take out the lemongrass from Becca's garden, right? That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good at all. So it can teach these principles of morality, of non-aggression, even self-defense. You got to explain it in a way, but self-ownership. This is your garden. You own this garden. You're tending to it. You're responsible for it. So it's a really good analogy. And observe the forces of nature. I kind of already touched on that, right? You can see the cycles. You can explain the physical, the physical forces, inertia, right? You have to start something. Once you start it, the inertia, the first push, right? Then what's the next force? Momentum. And the momentum starts coming, and that's how the garden can produce and grow and flourish. And then mental and physical alchemy, which I'm going to dive deep on that. But here's a quote. I'm diving deep on that in another presentation. So we kind of touched on some of the mental and the physical alchemy. But, cooking. So cooking goes with it. You're nourishing the body. It's a magical process. It's great. And the rewards are fantastic. So you reap what you sow. This is a great, the golden rule, cause and effect. You can teach this as you're doing the gardening for growth, right? And remember, farmers were the first philosophers, right? Ancient farmers, this is one of the most powerful things, is growing your own food, interacting with nature at that level, with the forces of nature, discovering those principles and those forces. So, kids are little philosophers, and it's good to spark that imagination. Okay, co-parenting. Checking my time, getting low on time. I only got a few more slides. Very tough topic, right? I'm in a co-parenting situation, and it can be extremely frustrating and complicated relationship for all parents involved, but the child is the most effective, right? Here's 3 factors for balance. This is what you're trying to accomplish, is balance within the relationship. Okay, remember, the relationship between you and your child, it's a partnership, right? You respect each other. You respond instead of react. So, you're trying to model this in the co-parenting situation as well. And I get it, right? It can be very difficult because you're dealing with egos and resentment and all kinds of emotions that can come into play, right? But, taking in knowledge and then trying to apply some of these factors right here. Boundaries, right? You have to understand your boundaries. You have to understand their boundaries and your boundaries, and then communicate that, right? And sometimes it takes a big person to swallow and initiate that process of communication, right? You have to weigh out what is actually important, because your whole relationship is going to be mirrored down to your child or your children, right? So it can have a huge traumatic effect. So communication's important for the co-parents, all parents involved, right? There's step parents, and those are parents as well, right? This is a big dynamic, a huge partnership for the child or children. So, and then acceptance, right? Accepting the fact that you don't have control over another person. So they're going to do what they do, right? You can't, if they eat a certain way, you can't control that. But you can try to communicate, right? Try to communicate some knowledge and almost step into that teacher role and see what kind of influence you can have on that front, right? But I will say this. Children, when you'll see the effects of your child on how well you did, on where their mentality is in life later on. So children are not humans in general. They don't take kind to slavery or enforcers or controllers. So focus on yourself and be your child's freedom advocate, and respect them and build that connection. It will pay off in the long run for sure. All right. Mentorship. A mentor is someone who holds a level of knowledge within a topic of your interest that can advance your level of understanding. Parents can help to seek out a mentor or an apprenticeship for your child. These are midwife of consciousness, right? If your child has a certain interest, right? Like, for instance, my daughter loves animals. I hooked her up with an apprenticeship over at the farm so she can interact with animals and see that life. She wants to help animals, so I can facilitate and meet those needs, make those connections, and help her out to give her a better understanding. She's young, so her interests could fluctuate, but you're the facilitator. You can support and promote that. Mentorship is for all ages. Right? If you want to learn how to play the guitar, your parent can try to find you a mentor so you can learn from. And same thing on the spiritual realm, the spiritual aspect, right? We all need guidance and mentorship somewhere. So this applies to all levels. Meet needs. Children never need to be forced to learn anything. Instead, they need a life rich with resources and the world at their fingertips. They require loving parents to facilitate their interests, to help them expand and grow with the support and presence. They are able to discover their true purpose. I'm not sure if that's a duplicate paragraph from early on, but anyways, regardless, it's important. So let's talk about it again. Meet your child's needs. Right? Support them. Look at your belief systems. I remember when my daughter was young and, people were like, oh, don't hold her too much. She'll get attached to you. What? Bullshit. That's all bullshit. That's all belief systems and conditioning passed down, right? Same thing as, oh, your child's going to be dumb if they don't go to school, or antisocial if you homeschool. Like, come on. No. Meet your child's needs. Talk to them, communicate them, get down to their level, be truthful. And I'm going to end it. 2 minutes. I'm going to end it on a fantastic quote by Dana Martin. Dana Martin is a phenomenal teacher, child advocate for child rights, and look her up. Dive into that information. She has a book called Radical Unschooling. Phenomenal. So we're going to end it on this quote by Dana Martin. She's also on the One Great Work Network, so check her out. Children do not need to be shaped or molded. They are not clay to be controlled in your hands to your vision of beauty. Instead, they need to be released from your expectation and fear. When you let go and allow them to shape who they are, something amazing happens. You will see a stunning creation appear in ways that you could have never imagined. Your vision of beauty and potential is limited due to your own conditioning. So, release them. Let your children's gloriousness evolve with love and support, and allow them the freedom to create themselves. In doing so, you will see an expression of human form take shape that will change the world. Fantastic quote to end it on. So, folks, take in this information, and I'm definitely going to do a part 3 because we need to dive into homeschooling and unschooling, and I got some more. I mean, this is a phenomenal topic. It can go on and on. So I'm also doing longer forum discussion roundtables, conscious parenting roundtables. There's 3 episodes up right now, so go check out on my page, Will Keller, One Great Work Network. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next Wednesday. Please go to naturalfreedomleague.com. That is my website. And remember, seek truth and speak truth. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Take care.
The intention of Natural Freedom League is to expand the understanding of natural law, which is based on objective morality, and to expose the illegitimacy of the belief in authority, and thus the inherent immorality of all government.
We be the Natural Freedom League, cause we become no longer unbegun. We seek in the wisdom, and that's why we did come to this prison, a prism, and that's why the beat thumps, and that's why we speak